it is my privilege to introduce our first keynote this morning. Dr. Peter Highnam is the Principal Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Critical Technologies in the Office of the Undersecretary of Defense for Research and Engineering. Prior to this role, Dr. Highnam was Deputy Director of the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, better known as DARPA, and before that, Dr. Highnam was the Director of Research at NGA on assignment from OD&I, and he served 6 years at OD&I's Intelligence Advanced Research Projects Activity, IARPA. So he is no stranger to this R&D community and has probably seen many of the scientific advances materialize that many of us take for granted in our daily lives. Dr. Highnam has a PhD in computer science from Carnegie Mellon University, a master's in mathematical logic and foundations of mathematics from the University of Bristol in the UK, and a bachelor's in computer science from the University of Manchester in UK. So with that, please help me welcome to the stage Dr. Peter Highnam.
Thank you, Tara. So thank you for the opportunity to rejoin, albeit fleetingly, the Geoint community. I was fortunate to serve at NGA from 15 to 18, helping to unleash the amazing talents in the research division, which I now understand is called Research and Development. My tour at NGA really opened my eyes to the essential role of Geoint and the incredible sophistication and analytic tradecraft involved. I learned that the NGA team is deployed to all locations where support's needed, and the NGA and CONUS was very much in turn aligned to support them. I learned about safe navigation in air and maritime, which I hadn't been aware of before. And I got to participate in the IC aspects of NGA's remit, and that was fun. Now, the science behind and the technologies essential for NGA's mission are broad and perhaps not always expected. This is going to be a theme today. When I stood on this stage, well, not this stage, but another Geoint stage in 17, I described the United Kingdom's Longitude Prize of the early 1700s and its relevance for PNT, position navigation and timing today. In short, major military problem, government scientists analyzed it, identified the inability to assess longitude at sea with acceptable accuracy, did a prize challenge, the novel use of a commercial technology, modified it to work on a wooden ship, did rigorous field trials, sounds just like DARPA, by the way, trounced traditional tech, which at the time was championed by this no-name called Isaac Newton. It was time measurement. And the same technology we rely upon today for GNSS, for GPS and so on. Side note, for anyone who watches the PBS show, All Creatures Great and Small, Harrison was from Yorkshire, so now you understand what grit and intelligence can get you. So I wanted to revisit that Longitude Prize and its impact on our everyday lives because there's so much S&T available and coming online worldwide that impacts Geoint today and tomorrow, and available, unfortunately or fortunately, for everybody to employ. We're always mindful of the pacing threat and now the terrible crucible that is Ukraine and the ongoing hostilities in the Middle East. There's two parts to what I'm going to talk about this morning. I'm going to begin with some insights into the Office of the Undersecretary of Defense Research and Engineering, which is led by the Undersecretary Heidi Shru, who has passion and drive all the time for delivery of proven capabilities for the warfighter. This implementation, this approach, includes deep partnerships across the government, industry, academia, and international partners, and I'll share examples. And then I will talk about critical technologies, how we identify them, and what that means for work inside defense. Now, a little history for those who don't track what goes on in the department. Research and engineering, and before that, an organization called AT&L, have not just created sequences of powerful new military capabilities over the decades, but also created and transitioned multiple technology innovation organizations, notably the Strategic Capabilities Office, the Defense Innovation Unit, and the Space Development Agency. And a spoiler alert, your help is going to be requested in several ways, so if you would pay attention until near the end, and then I'll come back to that. First, the challenge. Our adversaries are well-resourced, people and infrastructure funds, and determined. Science and technology available worldwide. Again, a huge advantage for those of us who are scientists. But our adversaries have demonstrably fewer scruples and demonstrated that over decades. So consequently, as many others have noted, we're very much in a Red Queen competition, running hard, running smartly, running with partners and allies to stay ahead, and this isn't going to change, where the measure is in terms of warfighter capabilities. Specifically, China is the pacing threat. No daylight between party, military, academia, and industry, a formidable machine. And to be clear, success for us is measured in terms of deterring aggression, and failing that, providing superior capabilities to our warfighters. In NGA, the term I remember seeing and using frequently was the job was to ensure the fight was never fair. In the coming decades, the Department of Defense plans to advance its priorities in three interlocking ways: through integrated deterrence, campaigning, and by building enduring advantages. The department is consistently identifying, testing, and fielding new technologies for our future defense, and much of that work begins in research and engineering. R&E is the Department of Defense's Chief Technology Officer, with responsibilities that have much in common with the CTO roles in industry. Ms. Shu's remit includes DARPA, it includes the Missile Defense Agency, it includes the Department of Defense lab and testing infrastructure, notably TRMC, Test Resource Management Center, DTIC, the Defense Technical Knowledge Management Operation, ST, Science and Technology, Fundamental Research and Protection of same, MC, which is Mission Capabilities, Prototyping, Field Experimentation, and soon other things moving from much more interesting field activities. And Critical Technologies, where I'm currently assigned, which has a leadership role in critical tech. There's also an explicit IC liaison function. Research and Engineering published a strategy in 2023. So as anybody who's worked at DARPA, identifying the right metrics and being able to robustly measure them against them is a necessity. Research and engineering can and does do both. And joint means all of you. It means all services and allies. Ms. Shoes has a passion and drive for delivery at speed and at scale, consistent focus throughout her organization. We worry about the health of the workforce, necessary infrastructure to do some of the hard things that we need to do, and we worry about supply chains, and we work against these not just worry, we work against them. And fully represented in the recently published 2024 Department of Defense Strategic Management Plan is investing in the right technologies is a major goal. So in implementing this vision, research and engineering has multiple lines of attack and a clear-eyed understanding of the challenges of translating new technologies into advanced and overwhelming capabilities for our warfighters. Now, you'll probably hear the term, and maybe even use it yourselves, the term valley of death. It's wrong. And as we all know from working in analysis, if you get the wrong concept or precept going in, bad things are going to come out the other end. So what we've done in research and engineering is to break it into more realistic assessment, which is there are valleys, there are multiple chasms to be traversed. So this chart shows significant Department of Defense activities to help bridge some of those valleys. Again, taking technologies from the earliest phases when they're proving out in lab and in small businesses and large businesses, and getting them all the way, those that need to get there, all the way up into production and use. This view is informed by extensive interactions with industry, funding organizations across the government, and other partners. Now, in addition to the activities shown here, there's now a CHIPS and Science Act funded $2 billion investment addressing the first valley in microelectronics alone, called the Microelectronics Commons, which is also managed from research and engineering. The Office of Strategic Capital was a powerful new mechanism established by Ms. Xu this year that aims to dramatically increase available commercial funds in support of US technical innovations on the route to becoming battlefield capabilities. A key Value 2 bridge is provided by a very successful set of experimentation, prototyping, and evaluation programs. Radar, engage, test, integrate, field US technologies in major service exercises. Determine and demonstrate readiness for acquisition. Proven, powerful construct, framed by scenarios and combatant commands. APIT, acquiring and delivering prototypes to field, also a new activity. And we also acquire and prove out foreign systems with foreign comparative test. Over 35 countries so far over the years have provided existing kit for evaluation, and when proven to meet operational requirements, moved on to acquisition. Of course, we learn much in this testing campaign of foreign systems, which have not always been from allies. Now, that said, we do have a robust R&D relationship with allies, including a mix of examples here. Diana, which is the new innovation organization within NATO. The chair of the board is Ms. Barbara Quiston from Research and Engineering. They have operational test centers across the NATO countries now. There's NATO Innovation Fund. They've run their first 3 prize challenges. Really exciting, and watching them and getting off to a great start. The Technical Cooperation Program, Five Eyes, has been in place for over 70 years. At this point, we have over 250 active projects. There's additional Five Eye R&D through the IC, which has been running about 25 years. And I remember that well from my time here at NGA. In addition, many existing ongoing bilateral R&D activities with countries including India and Japan. Now, AUKUS is something that I personally play a role in. Pillar 1, nuclear-powered, conventionally armed submarines. Pillar 2, the one you hear less about, launched at the same time with these work areas that are shown on the right, clearly of interest to defense. All folk across the Navy, the services, the Joint Staff, Cybercom, and across different parts of the Office of the Secretary of Defense all have roles in Pillar 2. And some Pillar 2 results, after 2 years, are now in programs of record in the 3 partners. So the recent NDAA, the Defense Authorization Bill, laid out a path towards easing technical data controls between the 3 partners. And there's a lot about this in the press. For us, the term is ITAR, and we're watching the evaluations by the State Department and others about what's going to happen there. A recent project development inside Pillar 2 is the alignment of autonomous ISR experimentation campaigns into a sequence of maritime experiments over the next several years. Industry is closely engaged as we explore prototyping and integration at scale. So, at this point, this includes a wave-top look across research and engineering. I'm now going to pivot to how research and engineering works to advance critical technologies for defense. So, critical technologies, there are many technologies. Everybody wants theirs to be considered critical. Some, and we'll come back to this as we go over time, these priorities will change. At the moment, we have 14, where these get extra attention. We have people explicitly tracking activities here, looking at development, funding, transition to warfighter capabilities, and how research and engineering works with these critical technical areas is defined in statute. Again, the Authorization Act from 2021 is clear as to the Department's responsibilities for critical technologies. These responsibilities are akin to those of any CTO organization. The work for the people in these leadership roles within each critical technical area is interesting, hard, and important, which always, for me, been the criteria for a great job. You're on point to build, maintain lock on developments in your area, both blue, red, commercial, the state of the science, the workforce, and you're expected to have an active role in the oversight and coordination of activities across the department and services. All people in these positions are term limited. For those familiar with the DARPA and IARPA model, it's the same. On a personal note, in my current role, I work with technical leaders in these positions, and it's enormously rewarding. The current set of 14 areas is as follows. There are 3 classes. First, broad applicability within defense research, areas where there's significant commercial industry leadership and DoD specific. Note that these are, as you might expect from research and engineering, these are technology focused. The services have their own technology priority lists. OSTP in the White House has a priority list. The Joint Staff has a priority list. And other elements across the government also have capability lists. There's alignment efforts going on to ensure that we can do consistent tracking of investments according to different views of these lists. Now, some CTAs, some critical technical areas, have long established tagging in the defense finance systems that allows reliable breakout of funds. For example, IS&C, which is approximately electronic warfare and cyber, is represented well in terms of prior tagging and operations, which allows a lot of easier and more accurate service and budget element tracking. But most CTAs do not. One of the things that we do in research and engineering is to track transitions from these technical areas. Over the last 3 years, there have been 300 significant transitions, 60% direct to programs of record or as COTS. For example, microelectronics, gallium nitride advances from ONR and DARPA. 40% have been baselined directly into acquisition programs. For example, some high-energy laser activities. And approximately 10% to support Geoint. I want to call out a few topics. Microelectronics. So we care a lot about where chips are made and packaged today. A lot of interest in both current as well as leading edge node materials. We have the trusted and assured microelectronics activities. We have the Commons, which I mentioned earlier, funded by the Chips and Science Act. And we have, again, highly competitive, absolutely worldwide field, and a lot of work to do there. Now, one of the things that we do when we do these roadmaps is not just to say, here's the trend, here's the lines that we anticipate this technology will move on, but also, oh, this thing just appeared, this result just appeared. We need to fix these curves. This is worth an alert, because now, in terms of capability down the road, something's happening that could really change the game, and we have to be on it. For example, 3D heterogeneous integration in microelectronics is a big deal. This is stacking small chips or chiplets together. And the performance of inter-chip or inter-chiplet performance now is measured in multiple terabits per second per square millimeter. So for those of you who build hardware, who do work in this space, think about what that means in terms of communication in large-scale sensor arrays, for example. Similarly, a DARPA result from the PIPES program showed that optic performance between chips is also up in the terabits per second, albeit, of course, with a slightly longer latency, again, measured in a few tens or hundreds of picoseconds. Space, a topic where I spend much time, especially, and I remember this from my time at NGA, commercial, just a decade ago, was getting into the game, and now it's something that is very much part of our conversations, from everything from launch to capabilities in orbit. Directed energy, lasers, high-performance microwaves. Many applications in the Defense Department there. And a new one, regs, which is here, which is about renewable energy. There's some discontinuity alert again. There's some intriguing battery technology just coming out that really may change the game in terms of storage per kilogram and energy storage per liter. Now, quantum is a topic of personal interest for which there is a strong and mature road mapping activity in research and engineering. This also permits me to share interesting examples from a roadmap, again, which is very much a living document. This was published in May of 2023, and this is by Dr. John Burke, who's the lead principal director in research and engineering for quantum science. And it assesses science and technology broadly. It's communications, sensing, in a variety of modes and time, and compute. And the plot shows our assessment of military readiness on the horizontal and the potential military impact on the vertical. We can argue, and I'm sure there are arguments and discussions to have about where these things are placed. This is our current assessment, as of May 2023. The roadmap for Geoint purposes really calls out sensors and clocks as being ready for maturation and fielding. So again, from the same document, the same roadmap, we have here as you see, for the Geoint purposes, I remember from my time here, electromagnetic sensors and clocks, accelerometers, gravimeters, all things that I, in research here in NGA, really cared about. And the good news, our assessment is that so many of these are far along now and ready to maturation and fielding. Now, of course, there are many prioritized technology lists by many organizations and countries, and I explained some before. And to quote Vannevar Bush, the endless frontier of science, the implementation and deployment of technologies, the changing adversarial landscape, and the key operational problems of the combatant commands means that we must never think that any technology list has even a smidgen of longevity. And we are required to update our critical technology lists and priorities. As you said, the adversary gets a vote, as does industry. That grad student in the lab is going to surprise us all, and they always do, as well as allies. Again, as in the recently released Department of Defense Strategic Management Plan, one of the 5 goals is invest in the right technologies. And now, to wrap up, I work for the Department of Defense Critical Technology Officer. I hope I've conveyed the vital nature of our endeavors. We're implementing the driving vision of Ms. Xu and previously Dr. Griffin, Dr. Porter, to get proven new capabilities to the warfighters as soon as possible. Research and engineering has created new bridges. The Office of Strategic Capital as a general tool, and the Defense Microelectronics Commons is a particular example. Our actions build on industry capabilities. Our strategy requires close collaboration across the IC. We partner across the government and with our allies. The DoD CTO employs the critical technical areas to ensure their use for advantage by the US and our allies. Now, your help, I said this was coming, is requested in several ways. First, ensuring that our technology roadmaps are as fully informed as possible. Second, spotting breakout technical advances, I mentioned some, corresponding to changing the curve on a technology development that in turn will change how what capability might be possible. Can we see further? Can we shoot further? Can we travel further? These things really, really matter. And third, all of our critical technology leaders are term limited. And are you or someone you know interested down the road in coming in to take this on? And fourth, your views on the critical technologies we're focused on today and what should maybe perhaps change. Now, we all appreciate how science and technology can produce powerful capabilities. It can also directly convey important messaging and hope. In Ukraine today, scientists and engineers have built a system that uses many distributed acoustic sensors and clocks to help track and deal with airborne Russian munitions. The system is written up, and you see it in the press, referred to as Sky Fortress. Over a century ago, in World War I, timed acoustic measurements of enemy artillery were used to support counter-battery fire, and those measurements were recorded on film. On the 11th day, the 11th month, the 11th hour, those guns fell silent, and they were caught. Go back, please. And they were caught by the measurements of those acoustic sensors. This is a camera tape, and you can see that middle point where the thing goes blank. That's the 11th hour. That's when the guns fell silent. So this is the Geoint profession. This is recording sensors on the battlefield, timed measurements with air. And this is a reminder to us all that this too shall pass. So thank you for your partnership and for all that you do.
Well, thank you, Dr. Highnam. We do have a little bit of extra time here for some questions, if you want to move over here so I can ask them up. So again, thanks for giving us a little bit of the insight into the critical technology areas of the Office of Undersecretary of Defense for Research and Engineering. I do want to remind you, I don't know if you have the QR code up, but we do want to hear from you. We have a few minutes here to get some questions. You can also text 22333 to USGIF, but I will start with a couple questions we have already for you. So, with rising concerns over intellectual property and protection and foreign talent recruitment, what step is the DoD taking to safeguard critical research while enabling that international scientific cooperation?
No, can I?
Oh, yes, yeah.
You don't.
It is echoey.
So back in about a little over 4 years ago, there was an executive order that came out to deal with research and engineering, to do with research funding grants at universities. And that addressed the potential for conflicts of commitment and conflicts of interest by researchers receiving grants. One of the things that we did at DARPA, and now research and engineering does, and other organizations do in the government, is to ask for more information of the principal performers on those programs to help check for those things. And it turns out this is something that the universities and such are already doing today. There's a lot of interest and help and support out there in terms of other types of protection, in terms of cyber and cyber help. And I see news articles pretty much every week about how the government is helping to do that.
All right, well, thank you. In ensuring that you mentioned, NGA spoke to how are we ensuring the fight is never fair, right? Can you hear me better this way? Okay. Yeah, it is. It's echoey up there. Sorry about that, guys. So you talked also about bridging the valleys of death for many industry kind of partners. But many industry commercial technology innovations maybe originate from startups outside of the defense and intel space. How is the DoD providing access and pathways to harness innovation from these non-traditional sectors? Did you get that one? Yep. Okay.
When DIU, Defense Innovation Unit, was established at the time as Defense Innovation Unit Experimental, that was a big piece of the puzzle, so the big piece of the mission, to be able to reach out, to be out there in those spaces working with them. NGA stood up an NGA outpost in Silicon Valley to help be there, to be a presence with those companies because so much of this comes from familiarity with us. The department or the government can look like this big bureaucratic machine, and well, we are, but at the same time, to lower the barriers. So you want to work with us, here are some ways to do it. So every time, for example, DARPA folk go out and give talks, there's always a piece of that which is how to work with us. Not just here's the website entry points, here are the different things. This is faster, this is, you come in, you convince someone, you move out this way. A lot of these pieces are there. And the Office of Strategic Capital, I think, is a very interesting innovation by Ms. Shru, which aims to provide, make capital more available to a variety of companies and industries that are of interest to us, but isn't going after specific organizations, but it's to lower the risk for people who might fund those companies to in turn take that risk to come work with us.
All right.
There is no easy answer. It's very much a contact sport, and it's been great to see some of the innovations coming into play, and DIU being the first really big one.
All right, thank you. We did get a couple questions from the audience now, so I'm going to pivot to those. How has and how will AI affect the validity of geospatial information? That's this crowd.
That's an easy one. There's already, even back in 2015 or so, the time NGA Research, working with other partners, were tracking issues because working in part with DARPA on programs like Semaphore and Metaphor, to be able to assess what's coming and can you tell. There's more work recently on fake detection of all kinds, because they're so much easier to produce now, and very good ones at that. So I think, personally, almost one of the easy buttons is going to be, personal view, is going to be adding various tags so that when Tara sends something to me, I can use encryption technologies to understand that what you sent me actually did come from you. You signed it, and it hasn't been changed in transmission. That there's still, out of the edges, there's still things we have to worry about, absolutely. Again, this is one of those. There is no easy answer. It is a Red Queen game, and we just got to be on top of our game with every tool we have at our disposal.
All right. Okay, here's another question from the audience. How does the world of changing social media and its ability to quickly exploit information affect the maintenance of competitive advantage and deterrence efforts? Did you catch that one?
Yes. As someone who doesn't take too much advantage of social media because of all the other side of that business, I'm not probably the best to answer that question.
Okay.
But there's a lot of soft information that becomes available. We track it, we see it. There have been a variety of open, unclassified research programs. One I recall was open source information, which was an IARPA program that can actually do very well, anticipating certain types of event in other countries based entirely on social media activities. And that was about a decade ago. So we already have proven the value of some of those tools and some of those data sources.
Okay.
But they come with bias, they come with potential for spoiling, for all the other things we just talked about before. You don't get to use this for free. You've got to use it with your eyes wide open about the potential for not actually dealing with what you thought you were dealing with.
All right. Okay, We got a question on some FFRDCs, and so I'm going to combine these couple of questions here. So, maintaining technological superiority requires strategic coordination across the services, agencies, FFRDCs, and universities. How are you promoting increased collaboration and integration across the DoD's research system, and how critical are those FFRDCs towards the DoD's CTO strategy?
I'll begin at the end. So FFRDCs, federally funded research and development centers, and the university-affiliated research centers, I assume that was written by an FFRDC person, are incredibly valuable, as are many of the other organizations that support the defense and the IC technical interests. There's a lot of coordination that takes place already by Ms. Shu in the context of being the CTO for the department. There are regular meetings with the leaders of these organizations. There's a lot of consulting, consultation sense all the time. There must be several each week that I'm aware of, across the board. And then there are CTO roundtables with industry. So again, contact sport, this isn't a one and done. As I asked in one of my asks here, is in the critical technical area spaces alone, if you see something it says we need to update a roadmap, or this piece is missing from this roadmap and it's now essential, or this technical area is coming into prominence and you should really pay more attention to this one, then let us know. Don't hold back and just sit there. Come to us and tell us. It's our job to maintain lock, and we have a few people. We have great resources. We have the FRDCs. We have the UARCs. We have universities. We're in all the conferences, many of the conferences. We do all we can, but we always will need more help. Again, Red Queen game. Technology, science and technology worldwide, a lot of competing interests, a lot of money involved, and a lot of commercial capabilities coming from those same technologies. So it's not just defense, and we recognize that.
All right, thank you. You talked about some of the international cooperation and Diana with NATO and things like that. What roles do you envision allies and international partners playing in cooperative research and development for these critical defense technologies going forward?
So again, I mentioned several programs that already exist. These are intergovernmental programs. So the Technical Cooperation Program has been in place about 70 years. There are over 250 running activities. This is Five Eyes. Going on. The IC has a number of R&D partnerships as well. I'm very familiar with those. But there's also, again, thinking back to my time at DARPA, my last tour, there are companies and universities in other places who really are the best at a particular thing. And I recall in one of the deepfake programs at DARPA, I think it was an Italian university that was actually performing, its research results really were very good. When we talk about munitions or co-production of things today or co-development, these already take place with other countries. So this is not new. What we're saying is that as we talk about working with partners and allies, we really have to take advantage and have, in partnership, in the partnership sense, of the things that they are really good at, and we, limited resources, are just not at the same level.
All right. This is another question that just came in, and I guess let me know if you don't want to answer this, but can you please provide comment on DoD's push to improve data at the tactical edge as it relates to UAS swarms and dedicated DoD satellite clusters?
I have no particular insights on that one, sorry.
Okay, well, there goes that one. Okay. You talked about the critical technology areas, and obviously the DoD has identified some of those critical technology areas. You talked a little bit more about quantum, but areas like AI, quantum, biotech that are priorities for research. Which emerging technologies do you see as truly disruptive to the Geoint tradecraft, since we're here at Foreword?
AI, of course, writ large. So not just machine learning, but a lot of other tools, including processing at the edge, wherever the edge happens to be. So that's a bit of a partial answer to your previous question.
Okay.
I mentioned the sensors and the fact of so many of those sensors are now such high technology readiness level and clocks. The things that can be done, the things that we thought about doing in the Geoint world and now could be done routinely in a very small package, those are very exciting and potentially very disruptive. For Geoint in general, again, looking back from 10 years ago till today, commercial industry was becoming more visible in space-based assets. And now it's almost the norm, as we see with launch. So I think there's a lot more coming there.
Okay.
Again, at this time, there isn't a CTA that's specific to geospatial, geotemporal. Should there be? That's a question.
All right. So research increasingly requires specialized computational resources and test beds. Is the DoD's research infrastructure keeping pace with state-of-the-art in areas like high-performance computing, modeling, and simulation?
We are maintaining, so we are acquiring capabilities at the level that we need to do the job in a variety of different settings and making those available as appropriate to others to use.
Okay. Or partnering with universities or other places.
There's partnerships, but there's also, when you look at the big tech companies and the devices coming online, there's a lot more compute power becoming available. It's what you do with that. The first thing out of the gate was these generative models. There's a lot more coming in and around that we're tracking that will also require a lot of storage, close-in storage, ability to maintain, to model, to update, right out at the edge where when we're talking about perhaps a few tens of picojoules to do a fundamental operation because there is no more power available to do the job. So compute in that sense, the swap-based compute storage in the high-end sense, this is very much the Geoint space. And I remember having discussions while in NGA research because I won't say more about the specific project, but the pushback was, this is 2017, what do you need? You need a petabyte of storage. We can't do that. Okay. But the potential win, the thing that was going to come from doing that was, my view then, my view now, was still significant. And I believe that some of that has continued, albeit at a reduced scale.
All right. Well, this is the last question, and I know I didn't put, Dr. Highnam's bio was really extensive, right? Because outside of defense and intelligence, you've also worked in biomedical, pharmaceutical, and even geologic with some seismic.
12 years of oil and gas exploration.
Yeah. So, but just thinking here, looking 10 to 15 years ahead, what paradigm-shifting scientific breakthroughs or convergence across all of these disciplines could radically reshape military or defense intel-related technological capabilities?
The thing that I really hope for, and there are glimmers and such, and we all talk about it. We talk about PB, this budget reform in the government and so on. This is all about speeding up the acquisition, deployment of new capabilities to the warfighters. what we're seeing in Ukraine, in a real horrible war, is the rate of innovation. So the intelligence aspects in all senses of intelligence, again, the adversary gets a vote, that has to become the norm. The thing we all want to see is to be able to react, to be able to do all the work ahead of time, so that when we are called upon to react, we have the tools, both in terms of straight-up production, and we have the analytics, and we have the defenses in place, so that we're not going into this in any way other than to ensure that the fight is not fair.
All right. Okay, well, thank you, Dr. Highnam.
Thank you.
Thank you, yes. All right. And thanks again for sharing your expertise and your perspectives. I honestly don't think we could have picked a more appropriate person to kick off this day dedicated to research and engineering. So, all right, we're going to bring Jeff back out onto the stage to introduce our first panel.